Talking about materials, it's an interesting perspective, and I want to know your take on Indian stones like Kota, sandstone, and other regional materials. Now that you do a lot of villas which are outside Bombay in probably remote areas, what is the growing obsession with the imported ones?
So now there are two things out here. It's maybe what your current lifestyle is.
I just saw the Zaha Hadid's museum, the Opera House in China. And I was actually really blown away with the metal and the glass combination that they had done. So that is something for sure to look forward to.
So it's, for me, the last 3 years dealing with this in remote areas has been like an eye-opening experience. Like, damn, this is hard.
So welcome everyone. Today we are talking about materials, stone, wood, glass, textile, all these materials that our ancestors used to create shelters, and we are creating beautiful backdrops that we can Instagram the shit out of. We are not here to read out definitions of materials, but we are here to discuss how and we can mix up things and create something different out of it. We have an incredible line of panelists today, each with their own unique take on design and materiality. Expect fresh perspectives, innovative ideas, and beautiful conversations that can help you rethink the way you use materials. So let's get into it. Before we jump into the materials, like a nice icebreaker round, let me ask a quick question to all of you. If you were a building material, what would you be and why? One liner, keep it short.
Glass because it's fragile.
Wood maybe, tested of the time.
I probably steel. I would like to get molded in different directions.
Whoa! I was gonna say metal, different types of metals, but like now I'm gonna have to come up with something else because he's so less. I guess I would definitely say glass too, because I think you can do wonders with glass.
Probably a door, so everyone can just come in and go out.
What about you, Shiraz?
I'll probably like to be stone, so I could be chiseling a better
For a second I heard you said stone.
I guess I would pick concrete because I think you can just cast it the way you want.
What about you, Chris?
I'll say marble.
Timeless.
Yeah, just timeless. Elegant, timeless.
So Shiraz, let's start with you. Concrete and timber are two of the most widely used materials in architecture and interior design. Despite their contrasting properties, they are often used together to create beautiful and balanced structured spaces. From exposed concrete walls softened by wooden textures, designers continue to experiment how they use them. But are we truly exploring their full potential, or are we simply repeating familiar applications of how they were used till now? Are there any new ways to push the boundaries of how these materials react or interact with each other?
So I think concrete and timber is it's an amazing combination. It goes back, like hundreds of years, and it's very fascinating because it's with timber and concrete. It's like you have warmth meeting industrial. So I think it's the juxtaposition of these two very different feelings. Concrete comes together and kind of seriously encompasses a very nice warm and eclectic feeling. In terms of, I think they work really well together because of the different tonalities that they bring together, and both these colors are very warm and natural. So I'm not sure how if people are really pushing the boundaries, or if these boundaries can actually be pushed any further. But everybody's doing a lot of interesting things. They're two materials that react very differently. So when they're used together, you need to be very careful about how you're using them, because you need to understand how these materials move. Like movement is a big issue with both these two materials. So it's very interesting to see people are building, today people are even building towers that are like 20-30 stories tall with timber, something that was traditionally done with iron steel or concrete. You can build fantastic bridges with timber. I don't think we're really in India, we're really experimenting with this because this material is not really available to us in that sense. But I'm sure around the world, especially in the Nordic countries, people are doing some fascinating things we take apart.
Nice. So mixing materials can completely transform a design. Some combination create new possibilities while others don't work at all. Have you experimented with any such materials and what was the result? Was it like absolute beauty or complete disaster?
So I mean, okay, talk about timber and concrete. So I've done a lot of things with timber and concrete. One thing that stands out is we did like a floating staircase, that kind of timber staircase that cantilever out of the concrete wall. That worked really well. But if I have to think of something that was a complete disaster, it would be, I think back in college I made one this concrete and coconut husk table, which had like a wooden base and wooden legs. This table was placed outdoors, so I kind of got ruined because of the movement of the wood kind of destroying the joints in the concrete. And that's when I realized that movement really matters, and we really have to focus on how you use these materials. So yeah, it can either be a match made in designer heaven or it could be an absolute disaster.
And putting the question to everybody out here, do you see any material pairings that should get more attention?
I think glass and concrete.
Absolutely, yeah.
Metal and concrete.
Metal and concrete, yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I just saw the Zaha Hadid's museum, the Opera House in China. And I was actually really blown away with the metal and the glass combination that they had done. So that is something for sure to look forward to.
So, but in many places there are these old palatial stone buildings, and right next to it an extension is made out of glass and metal. What are your thoughts on that? Do they like go well together, or it's like completely poles apart? Is it crossing a line that shouldn't be crossed?
It is the individuality for sure. Like you can't compare the two as such, even though both are like natural materials. But if put together, then of course there are beauties of certain combinations. But I think stone का एक अलग है. Like if you see even in Maharashtra, the forts and everything, उसके बाजू में आप glass और concrete का building रख दोगे, it's not going to look that good. So I think also to decipher from the environment, the cultures that the locality is in, I think that also dominates the kind of architecture to go for.
and just to add to her, I feel it's also depending on how you do it. You know, how you kind of execute it.
Yeah.
So, and what if you want to restore the stone this thing and you build around it and you still restore the value of the stone structure, then sure, why not? But if it's like completely opposite of what the design language of the stone structure is, then I don't think that goes very well.
Nice. So coming back to glass and clay, two materials that sit on opposite ends of the spectrum, be in terms of texture, finish, or even the perception of both. Natural clay-based and earthy finishes on wall are gaining popularity, especially in architectural applications. So when paired with glass, they create an interesting contrast, clay and glass, or earthy materials and glass, contrast of texture and transparency coming together. Do you see this as an innovative material fusion or just another passing trend?
Not a fad, of course. This has been done previously also in early architectures. So many architects like Tadawando, they have also used these materials and created beautiful structures out of it. So I think post-COVID, people have shifted their perspective also. And I think these natural materials are again coming back, and they should be like a timeless, eternal kind of a thing. And I think we should use more of these materials and combinations. That is my personal choice also of not going for very high glossy finishes, but rather to keep the space more earthy and natural.
So it takes me back to a church that I had visited with beautiful worn out pilaster finish, and right next to it was a beautiful tinted glass.
Steel glasses. Absolute amazing. I agree.
So what material other than stone would you say would look good with glass or should be tried or experimented with? And people can interject if they want to.
Like steel, so for sure we are doing it, but I think I would have to really think about that.
Exposed brick.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's based on the design, what kind of design you do.
Yeah, maybe something to do even with stones. Like I'd seen Ali Baldiwala's recent project La Danza, and usme unhone they had used this glass which was textured with a steel base. So they had done this with white domes, and I just saw in morning today that reel, and that was a really clever approach that I like. So glass not in the sense that it's only transparent, but even to do different types of glass, that's also a really creative thought.
Yes, recently we had come across this furniture piece from a Singaporean designer where he had made the entire shutter of a console using glass bricks. And it looked phenomenal.
Yeah.
But now the entire
saw that,
technicality of it is a different thing altogether, but yeah.
I'm using that in a project for a bathroom glass partition,
Types of, even the colors that are available in the glass right now, it's beautiful. Very good alternative to the partitions that we are doing. Fluted glass, I think it's taking.
Fluted in general has been like, बहुत हो गया, बस कर दो, flute बंद करो.
Okay, so Ojas, we see a lot of stone and marble being used in today's design language, whether it is for flooring, walls or statement furniture pieces. At the same time, textiles are making a huge comeback, not just for furnishing or curtains or fabric as an upholstery element, but as a key design element to add depth, softness and even acoustic element to the spaces. Now that brings to the next big question that I have for you. Like 5 years into studying architecture, did you ever think you would end up selecting curtains for your client?
Not really, because it's all about big spaces, architectural.
I'm just kidding. So beyond just selecting soft furnishing, so we had this. So we had this project where a client came up and the primary objective of his was to upgrade his lifestyle. So do you think the role of an architect today is evolving towards curation of lifestyle rather than just spatial design? Should this be embraced, encouraged or resisted?
I think so. The design, it is going to be a personal, obviously, when you're doing a residential design or any space, public or anything, it has to resonate with the person or the people who are going to use it or stay over there. So eventually the space has to kind of design and space, the overall textures or those fabrics which are coming back in the trend. It's all because of that only.
So Ojas, do you think the role of an architect today is evolving towards lifestyle curation, or we are still giving precedence to spatial design?
I think so it is both in a way, because eventually you are an architect. You start doing a space with a spatial experience, how the person is going to adapt to that thing or how he is going to feel over there. So there are this multiple, so if you are doing a residence, definition for a residence for every person is going to be different. So automatically it is about how the space is going to be kind of having that conversation with that person. So it's about the space. And then later on, obviously, that small details of how things or how materials will play an important role over there, that becomes a part and parcel of the design. So both are quite important.
Talking about materials, it's an interesting perspective, and I want to know your take on Indian stones like Kota, sandstone and other regional materials. Now that you do a lot of villas which are outside Bombay in probably remote areas, what is the growing obsession with the imported ones, where everything imported nowadays is termed as Italian marble? So do you think local materials get the recognition they deserve, or is it, or there is a serious bias towards something that is imported or international term?
So now there are two things out here. It's maybe what your current lifestyle is, kind of thing. So since we are doing quite a few villas which are in the outskirts of Mumbai and all this thing, people are already staying in a kind of a suburban city, a lot of concrete, marble, lot of lot of artificial materials are being used. So going back to the root becomes kind of an important step for them. So in that sense, the lot of stones or the Indian stones are getting importance because of that. And a lot of people in Mumbai or in a metro city are also planning to take those natural material in, because finally the charm of the natural material is going to be there. It's going to age, it's going to crack, it will have some staining, oxide flooring will have its own staining. But I think so people have started embracing that is the charm, and that is where the things are aging, and you don't want something which is like artificial to touch. So flooring itself, like a stone flooring, why it was used in the past was during the summers it used to stay cool, and during winters it used to be slightly warmer. So it had certain kind of a space which works perfectly for an Indian context. And that is where I think so now people have started realizing how they can come back to their own roots.
So I think you have been lucky enough to find clients who are ready to embrace this. But in my experience, many of the times when we try to push a certain Indian locally sourced material, we get somehow frowned upon. So in continuation to what we were speaking earlier, or just like the bungalows and the villas that you're doing on the outskirts of city, where you use a lot of naturally sourced materials like stones and stuff like that, we generally get frowned upon when we in the city propose similar material palette to a client, and he's like, no, I don't want to, I wanted something imported, or I want Italian marble. How do you tackle that? And then the question continues to everybody else.
So yeah, it's that kind of a thing where a lot of houses out here has that Italian stone kind of a tag, and that tag everyone wants. I have an Italian stone which is imported and all. So yes, breaking that perception is something quite difficult if certain people are already this is what I want. But then yes, you can show them what all things can be done with that. So we are doing one project in Sky Forest, duplex kind of a thing. We are doing stone with inlay in that. So having a Indian stone is usually what we see is they are laid in one single go kind of a thing. Inlays are not possible because it has certain limitations. But we showed them that option was there. We showed them how it's possible. We did few samples also, and after that they got kind of convinced we can do that. So we had done a Shabat, full flooring is done, it's in grey, and we done small inserts of black kadappa, and that is kind of a flowing with a kind of a random pattern which is happening, which is connecting your lift with the deck area and all this thing. So that is something which we were very happy to kind of explore and get that client convinced also. But I will say that strike ratio will be hardly 20%. 80% of clients will not agree, at least not in Mumbai. But as soon as you go to your second homes or kind of a home which is out of your city, that becomes much more higher in that way.
People would be more happy because it means the budgetary constraint.
Not, yeah, to certain extent, yes. And because they already have an Italian stone, so they don't want the same thing again in the second house also. So they are open to more experimentations over there.
Anybody else has faced similar issue where you have been frowned upon for proposing a certain locally sourced material?
Always, a lot. Even if the design demands it, like even if so many times it happens that the design demands the Indian stones or the Indian touch to it, but just because it's imported, it's an Italian marble, it'll look better. लोगों को लगना चाहिए कि पैसा खर्च किया है. That whole thing is there in a lot of people's heads. To get them out of it and to make them understand, see, you've hired me for a reason. You have given me a theme for a reason, and we are going ahead with that theme. And keeping the theme in mind, we have to select the materials. It is a difficult task.
True.
So it's an aspirational thing, right? Like a home is something that everybody aspires for something. So it depends the background of your client, where do they come from, what they had earlier, what they did not have. So I think once you understand the aspirations and the emotions involved, I think you will be in a better position to kind of guide them into moving in any direction you want. And even if you want to use an imported stone, I mean, there are multiple ways of using the same thing. You can combine it with something that you like. So what I always tell my clients is that if you see our body of work, it's always very varied, many different styles. So it's not about what I want to impose onto you. It's this is your personality, this is what you like, this is what you're all about, and my design sense maybe is just going to be like some salt that comes in. So if I'm somebody that likes to use cotta, for example, I can skip in cotta with Italian marble very seamlessly, okay, to create something that appeals to their aspiration, at the same time something that I'm proud of. You know, that works for me. It kind of keeps me interested in the work that I'm doing and doesn't become boring and monotonous.
How do you guys navigate between client's aspiration and your vision?
I feel like these days there are ways to make just much better visuals than what we had in the past, and I think that really helps to steer a client towards your vision. I think if you have a vision that you can put forward in the right way, then I think they'll be on board.
But the only issue that right now we are facing is that all clients think they're interior designers by default. So, and everybody knows that we can design because, you know, thanks to Pinterest. So that is exactly.
And every other person is like influencer. Everybody has every knowledge and they're trying to put our clients sab jagah se dekh ke aa rahe, they're like, nahi, this is right, that is right.
Yeah, you're right. And especially the reels that happen.
So expanding on that, with clients increasingly focused on social media, Pinterest and other apps like those, is the focus now more on well-known brands of furniture, imported brands of furniture, and are we losing our touch towards homegrown brands? Do you think that is an issue that's coming in?
I think homegrown brands have started to step up. Something that they weren't doing earlier. Everything was bespoke. You give me the design, I'll make it. You're making everything that you're making is then a prototype. It's not fully thought through. It doesn't fully really work. The ergonomics are not right. The scale of things are not necessarily right. And it's a one-off piece, so it doesn't really work. But today you have a lot of brands that are developing their own designs, not necessarily just copying stuff, but developing their own designs and really taking the time and effort to develop each piece. So yeah, we most of the times we do design our own furniture, but we also like to work with these brands and use their products, kind of encourage them to do more, and you know, it's gonna be better for everybody involved in the whole industry.
Sure. But I also think that, you know, brands come with certain credibility and that assurance and faith because they are established. So I think for any layman like our clients who are not very well aware on the local artisans or anyone like that, they might tend to shift towards the brand more because they think this is going to be long lasting, durable, and it is going to come with that warranty and assurance. So I think even that is one of the perspective.
But then the social media has taken, like, it had helped a lot to the...
For sure.
Yeah.
Like whatever, they were within that same city or maybe in a smaller radius. But as soon as with the social media, they are now all across India. They are shipping everywhere. Like a lot of people are now ordering furniture from Ahmedabad, Kochi. So the installations are, it's all because of social media. So
I think it's a boon and a curse in a way. So it is a boon in a way where we as designers can connect with a lot of artists and stuff also. And it does help us source, like, run ads, and the algorithm is picking that up because you're constantly seeing that. So many times, like, clients come up to us with brands, I'm like, oh, I've never heard of it, but maybe let's connect, let's see where we can, you know, kind of use that in a project.
So pushing material boundaries can lead to exciting discoveries. So Rakesh, do you think when you are creating a house or when you are designing a house, and if you have to do you particularly focus on furniture pieces or do you design the entire thing on a whole? And what is the most unconventional material pairing or combination that you would have worked with or would want to work with when it comes to a house or a bespoke furniture piece?
So basically my working style is very minimal. So it's depend on the residential project or it's a commercial or any boutique showroom. So I always choose some bespoke product first of all, then I'll create the surrounding. So always I consider some bespoke product, some like a metal work or maybe glass work or some stylish furniture, and rest everything I keep it very minimal and simple.
So you believe in having a hero piece and then...
Hero piece always, yeah.
So what is the best way to convince a difficult client who lacks imagination, as in under the table to lifafa chalega nahi na, paise to wahi de rahe hain apne ko. So what do you think?
So always, as he said, visualizations, renders, and some of the mood boards or combinations, that's the only best way to make them understand. End of the day, client has to trust on us.
So now some clients struggle to visualize material no matter how many 3D renders you show them or how many mock-ups you make or references you show from the internet. But then there are clients who get fixated on a material just because they have seen it in a luxury project on Instagram or Pinterest or on any other app. So how do we go about navigating such a condition?
Hit them with technicalities and they'll go nuts. They won't understand, they'll be like, yeah, you're right.
So, cost benefit analysis.
Absolutely.
And honestly, if it goes well with your project, then why not also?
I think you have to also respect the emotion involved. People are spending a lot of money and putting a lot of effort into making these homes. That's actually for homes. For homes, it's a very special place. For offices and things like that, it's a completely different ballgame. But for homes, it's a very
The office mein, he's more worried about when you're giving him the site, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things involved. Cost, and today he's the CEO. Tomorrow he loses his job if somebody else comes. It's his office. So it really doesn't. It shouldn't really matter to that. But in a home, it's something that's very personal. People are very proud of it. Every time somebody comes over, that home speaks volumes of who the family is, about the personality. It speaks about the personality. So they really want to get it right. And if you feel that something doesn't really work, you have to just nudge. But beyond the point, obviously, you have to give in. Beyond the point, don't take a photo of that.
So Krizan, design is constantly evolving, but every few years we see materials from the past making a comeback. Handmade tiles, terrazzo, rattan, lime plaster materials which were once considered outdated are suddenly must-have in all of the sites. Some materials are overused while some deserve a comeback. In your opinion, which material trend is overrated, completely needs to shut off, and which forgotten material should be revived or is due for a comeback?
I think everyone here is going to agree that this fluted thing needs to leave. It's like overdone in so many materials. I think it's really done. Another one for me is any terrazzo looking thing. I think terrazzo is also really done. And I'm not talking like cement, with the terrazzo chips in it, not that, like terrazzo tiles and any faux looking material like terrazzo, I think really needs to leave. I think it's very overdone in commercial and residential. And I think what needs to come back or do more of is tactile material, something that has texture and feel to it, like maybe reclaimed wood or even concrete, anything that you can feel and touch. I think it brings so much warmth into a space. And I think homes especially need a little more of that. I think glossy and matte satin can take a backseat, and something more tactile should come more in the market. Yeah.
What's your go-to material in case of a fussy client?
Like fussy with maintenance.
बस जाओ और ये मटेरियल लगाओ, complete the site.
I don't think I've ever been in that situation. I think I like to convince a client why an X material is really what the project or the design calls for. And if they are very fussy about it, I'll convince them to use it in a very small way. Like do one chair, do one thing, and so that it's a part of the design, we don't lose it entirely. And I think now materials come with so many coatings and ways to kind of maintain them. And yeah, I think I find my way around that one.
Okay, moving on. Suraj, advancements in technology have introduced new ways to use material, from 3D printed structures to AI-driven selections. If budget and execution weren't a concern, what's the one bold material experiment that you would want to try?
I think if budget wasn't a concern, I think firstly that's something that would excite any architect. I could speak for everyone here, but I feel like a bold move would be to use something like transparent concrete. I think transparent concrete is a material that's not really used much. It exists, but it's not used in a big way. And I think if you can 3D print concrete these days, you can also 3D print transparent concrete. And I think creating something out of that, like in a big way, an entire structure out of that would be very exciting.
And now that we have spoken about AI, do you see AI as AI is the future, but Do you think material selection will eventually be dictated by algorithms or over human intervention?
I hope not, to be honest. I feel like AI is a great tool to sort of get your ideas flowing and get sort of different combinations to come for you, because we already know all the materials that we use in our projects, but I feel like AI can sometimes put those together in different ways that you've not already done. So it can help you, it can aid you in your ideation for a project, but I don't think it should be a driving force for you, because if you can automate design, then I think it takes the human element out of it. It's also using models that are pre-existing, so it's already creating a new product out of existing things, which is great, but I feel like we also need to push ourselves to innovate rather than relying on a design tool to design for us.
How many of y'all are or open or rather already have started using AI in your projects?
AI to facilitate what you want to do, but not letting them, like not letting AI do what you are supposed to do, you know. So if you're supposed to create design, that is what a human can bring, the creativity. आप कितना भी AI use कर लो, वो that is not going to understand the emotion behind what you're designing, and I think creativity comes best out of emotions. So of course, to help with your ideation, like he said, that would be much better rather than like AI doing your work. Like then what are you doing?
I want to just, sorry, I just want to add, like, I feel like AI can sort of take care, I would love for AI to take care of all the back-end stuff. Like, it's like you get an idea flowing, you get the idea going, and then after that you use AI to sort of process all of that data, because I feel like humans are probably not the best at processing so much data and putting it out there in a quick time frame, and I think AI does that really well. So might as well use the strength of AI to do all of the back-end work for us, and then I feel like we'll really enjoy doing our work a lot more if we design and then just let AI do the rest.
So also AI is actually really great to like speeding up your time pitch.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's where the whole picture does not need to be really thought out. You just need to show an idea and interest the client into kind of working with you further. So where we use AI is that where we build very simple basic models and then had AI kind of fill in the rest in the background, use AI to generate better backgrounds or to like, you know, better plans. We don't, our software and our computers don't have to be like working overtime, rendering, you know, unnecessary things. So, and as he said, like what to do with if AutoCAD can have like some AI plugins to like build things up, you know, in terms of drafting and be more intuitive, that would be like a welcome move. And if we can eventually get like, you know, robots to build stuff, you know, that would be the best, because then you won't have to explain the same thing 20 times over and still not get what you asked for. So I think if AI can really do that, it would be a solid one.
But AI has definitely helped in pitching to the client in an...
It should be used like a kind of a bridge between you and the client. You are the concept, you have the idea, the entire back-end designing should be with you. It is only how to communicate with the client is where the AI should be kind of it's a bridge what we can do is it.
And it will only deliver depending on the prompts that you put. So eventually it's still you.
Eventually you are working beside the thing.
But it's beyond prompts also. So like so many software are incorporating AI. Like so like rendering softwares have like, you know, beta versions of like, you know, AI models that kind of improve your render in a so you put a reference image and it kind of uses the lighting, it uses the textures, it uses the tones from that image to give you a beautiful making render of a model that you have created.
Yeah.
So it's not a random, it's not also thinking that AI is going to design the structure, or at the moment, not with the tools that we have access to, at least.
So if tradition still has value, what do you think, do we risk losing by over-relying on technology?
Yeah, you got to move with the time. Technology is assisting you, like, you know, slowly like architects needed 100 people in their office. Today you can function and work on 20 projects with like 5 architects.
It's definitely making us more efficient.
Yeah, and you know, soon like you just have probably just have like principal architect and 3 other people, like, you know, AI and computers and technology are taking over the rest. We don't need to rely on so many people who are not so interested or motivated to work.
So that's gonna solve the hiring problem. Aditi, we all love sustainable materials. We've been talking a lot about it. Until the client asks, it will still look premium. How do we balance sustainability without compromising aesthetics?
Sustainable as a concept is, as I said, it's ever evolving. It is an experimental concept, and you said how to make it look premium. Yes, it could be. We can make it look premium with materials like recycled glass. There's box sheet. There's a project that we are doing currently where 90% of the materials that I use are sustainable. So we are replacing plywood with chalk sheets. There's a lot of recycled glass, UC paints. The core design theme is similar to the normal luxurious materials, but it will replace with sustainable core materials.
So taking that conversation further, we were doing this villa in Lonavala, which was ideally supposed to be a zero carbon footprint project. But at the end of it, when we went on the drawing board to chalk out a costing or the BOQ, it went quite to an enormous number. So when we are talking about sustainability, does it make your project more expensive if we are trying to reduce the carbon footprint? Thoughts?
Yes, it does increase the costing of the project. So because there are very few limited materials that are there out for sustainability.
Then in that case, is sustainable really sustainable?
Sustainability is a lie, I would say. It's an absolute hoax because we built these homes that, like we said, Lonavala, a second home not required. We build homes that are way bigger than we actually need. We use materials that we don't actually need these glossy, smooth surfaces. We don't need all of that. We're just doing it because of you want to perceive yourself in a certain manner, or you want other people to perceive you in that manner. But actually, everybody talks about recycle, and everybody talks about reusing old material. But everybody forgets about refusing. Everybody forgets about refusing. Refuse is the most sustainable approach. So you refuse to build, you refuse to make. So when people ask me like, what is sustainable about your project? Although sustainability has always been at the back of my mind throughout my career, throughout my childhood, throughout my schooling, I always say there's nothing sustainable about my project. So it can't be sustainable. We're using more than we need. So
Our field is also in like high.
if you refuse, just don't make it. Make a 2,000 square foot house. Don't make a 6,000 square foot villa with 4 bedrooms that you're never going to use.
We also generate so much waste as an industry.
Yeah, and when you start building in remote areas and you start building bigger projects in remote areas, you really start to figure, oh my god, water is a problem, electricity is a problem, garbage is a problem. What do I do with this garbage? What do I do with this sewage? So it's, for me, the last 3 years dealing with this in remote areas has been like an eye-opening experience. Like, damn, this is hard. And like figuring out the right solution is really, really hard. You can't just rely on dump yards and truck to come and take your garbage. You actually have to do something about it. So that is right now where we are like kind of focusing on some of our out of the city projects to kind of figure how to not create waste. In Khandala and Lonavala, you see the dump yards are like growing, mountains are growing of garbage. So we don't want every other place surrounding these areas to also end up.
So waste not, want not.
Waste not, want not. So go for it. And sharing, that could be a better concept.
So how many of you all have vendors coming over to your offices, and when they pitch their material, the bottommost line is, sir, this is a green product? And how do you accept that?
I think Shiraz would like to take this question. He has a strong opinion.
Well, I mean, when somebody tells me that, then I literally get into the depths of it and then the engineering behind it, and then I have to show them the reality of what they're selling. Because not everybody who's selling, I mean, salespeople don't have fault. They're not the ones who develop the product. They just want to say what the developers or their bosses have put in, to say and pitch it in that sense. But sometimes I take it upon myself to educate that person. Not necessarily goes down well.
They're not coming back.
They're scared to come back.
Okay, Janvi, raw, unfinished materials have become a major trend. But when does it add authenticity to a space, and when does it feel like a forced design choice just because everybody else is doing it? Where do you personally draw the line?
Personally, I do believe when I design, I do believe in balance for everything. I think that's even my life motto. I feel that as long as you're doing everything in like a limit and not overdoing it all over the place and in a way that it overpowers everything else and it loses its individuality, right? So you have to like do it in a certain limit. As long as it fulfills your aesthetic, functionality and other requirements, that's a good way to go about it. Otherwise, I personally wouldn't want to do it everywhere. Like for example, if I'm doing an exposed brick wall on one wall, the opposite wall the same thing, the third wall the same thing, it doesn't aesthetically look good, right? At the same time, there are certain places where I would want to do like a lime plaster finish in the entire house. It does look very good, but it needs to have some thought process behind it, some functionality behind it. Otherwise, it makes no sense doing it. That's what I.
So are you for raw finishes, or do you think it's overdone?
No, I like raw finishes quite a lot. I in fact love lime plaster as a finish. So when I design, I don't like designing a particular style. I don't have a particular style of designing. I don't believe in it. I do believe in understanding what the client's requirements are and designing according to that. Because for me, I feel as a designer, I get bored of designs very fast, and I do get bored of doing one particular style for a very long time. So I do like to experiment and try new trends and try new materials, and yeah.
That's your own raw finish.
For now, I think it's like gonna be lime plaster. Yeah.
And what would you do if you have to innovate with it?
If
Because it's been used like in every project, everywhere. So eventually we need to come out with an idea. If we want to retain it for a longer period, we need to,
I think lime plaster can be used as a finish for a lot of things. Like for example, you can incorporate within your furniture as well. And I think there's a lot that you can do with it. So yeah, probably like I would say furniture, for example. Or even like even if I want to just do a statement piece or a sculpture out of it. So yeah.
And for architects, when we do buildings or when we do villas or architectural projects, raw finish or a finished product?
It's got to stand the test of time. Yeah. So you got to weigh the pros and cons of each material and use it to its strength. I mean, the client is one aspect. It's your job to also tell them what's right and what's wrong, and then they can take their call. But at the end of the day, what advice you give has got to be right. So certain applications you can go with raw unfinished, and you'll have to live with the consequences of that. And certain applications you might you might do something you're not so happy about, but it's going to be long lasting. It's going to be mating. It's free. It's going to be less of a headache for the user. Not messy.
To maintain.
Yeah, maintain. You don't want to go to your holiday home and then keep fixing stuff. But that is not going to happen.
Right. Everybody who has a second home, the major difficulty is to maintain it. So they end up handing it over to a.
That's why as an architect you need to be experienced in maintaining a home as well. And like that's why I tell around my clients. Some of my advice might sound like very basic, and it might not sound that appealing, and other people are talking about far more cooler stuff. It's because I know, I maintain a house of my own. I know what it's like, and I don't want to have that headache. I don't think you would want the same anyways, right? So all that glitters is not good.
Okay, these questions are now open to everybody. Would any of you all use concrete as a primary furniture material in a project?
Yeah.
Anybody has used? Anybody wants to talk about it?
I'm doing one now where it's just like all the furniture, the beds, the side tables, everything is just rising up from the ground. It's in concrete with a concrete micro topple on top of it. It's going to have like a kind of a cold a vibe to it because of the material itself. But I think pairing it with like lime plaster on the walls and ceilings is gonna tie all of that together and have a nice warm feeling with some wooden tones. So like concrete and wood, what you asked me earlier, that's That's my jazz. Something.
Doing it rightly, then it makes sense, because to me brutalism is still not that I've adapted to, but everything only concrete can't be that I can envision. So of course pairing it with some textiles, something that softens it and does not make it too cold or like very stark to look at or very rough to touch at. So we are balancing that out.
Break the rules, please break. More rules. We should like that's my philosophy for the last 1.5 years. At a Ravimer in my tea, no rules. So if you think that this was a rule and you gotta do this and this has to align with this, it doesn't. If you think two doors besides each other need to be the same size, it doesn't. So don't be weighed down by any past rule that somebody's put onto you. Figure out for yourself, be experimented. We have software. We can 1,000 renders and we can see what it looks like. We can model everything. We don't actually have to build the mistake. We can model it and the mistake, move on.
Yeah, but be brave, but don't be stupid when it comes to that.
Be stupid when you're modeling stuff, when you're recording. I was stupid on great things.
So during your model,
While you're modeling, while you're designing, go wild. But once you've designed and gone for it, then just don't make it as an excuse.
I think it really depends on the design process, like what he was saying, that you try it out and see if it works. If it doesn't work, move on to something else. Like you could start a design with a rule in your head that, like he said, that two doors have to be of the same height. But once you're done designing, you could be breaking your own rule and it would still work. So I think just getting your hands dirty with design is probably the right way to do it.
That might give statement piece.
Yeah, that could be, yeah.
So natural stone, finished or unfinished?
Fish. Just a quick word. Finished.
I know it stains.
No unfinished stone ever used?
Depends on the vertical surface, yeah. Horizontal, post. See it.
Maximalistic material combination versus minimalistic ones?
Always a minimalist.
Minimalist at the moment.
So
For me,
nobody
it's
is embracing
minimalistic.
the upcoming
I
trend.
like the maximalist.
I like to dabble with both.
I would like to explore, but currently I am at minimalist.
Future is maximalism for the next 2-3 years.
We'll try out. He told ना सब experiment कर लो अपने, उसके बाद we'll figure that.
I like the maximalist approach.
So that's it. Do you want to add any comments or?
No, let us all of us ask him one question now.
What are your favorite material combinations?
Concrete and wood.
Give us a reason to support your answer.
It's like a toxic relationship, concrete and wood. So the wood kind of has that tender touch to that particular element, and concrete is like macho, brute,
Any disaster
and
that
they
it has
come
come.
together and make something that is beautiful.
Any disaster that you might have.
There's opposite and zero to something else.
I mean, what you described was beautiful, but picturing it as a toxic relationship just
So
throws me off a little bit.
Actually, it's right because two materials that work so different, react so much. They're not. They don't see.
they are not meant to be together, but they come out beautifully together.
Both are opinionated. Two alphas.
Yeah, they both. There's some synergy between the two also.
Nice. So yeah, that's it. That's a wrap.